My name is Greg Burton. I'm the Director of Communications for the VCU Center for Sport Leadership. We want to thank everyone, all the VCU alumni around the country and around the world that are joining us here today. We know golf is a global sport, so we're excited for folks that are joining us all over, whether you're registered and logged in to the Zoom webinar, or whether you're watching us right now streaming live on Facebook Live. We're so excited. Please want to encourage you to engage with our conversation today. Hit like if you're a golf fan, if you're excited. You might be even watching the Memorial right now. So certainly hit like, give us a thumbs up to let us know you hear us loud and clear, because we've got a really exciting and insightful conversation for you here this afternoon. We want to thank our friends at the VCU Alumni Association for including us once again. We at the Center for Sport Leadership love showcasing our alumni, and we have one of our best to join with us here today. So let me introduce him. Charlie Howe started at the USGA 12 years ago as an intern, and that was shortly after he graduated from the VCU Center for Sport Leadership. Charlie's work ethic and professionalism and his affability really led to multiple promotions over the last decade, leading to his current role as the Championship Director of the 2020 US Open, which is scheduled for September 10th through 13th at Winged Foot Country Club outside of New York. Charlie's a proud native of Mechanicsville. He earned his undergraduate degree at Virginia Tech, where he played soccer. For the last 6 years, Charlie has been one of the most engaged alumni for the Center for Sport Leadership. And for the past 4 years, he has been the president of our Alumni Advisory Board. I am proud to call him a friend, and I'm so glad he's joining us today. Hi, Charlie.
Hey, Greg. You can hear me okay?
Yes. Tell everybody where you're coming from.
Yeah, so calling, live from Madison, New Jersey. It's just outside of Morristown, about 20 minutes west of Newark Airport, maybe a half hour to an hour, depending on some traffic from Manhattan. So our USGA headquarters are located in Liberty Corner, Basking Ridge area. So that's where I'm calling from today.
Awesome. And not just a short drive to Winged Foot, where you're going to be spending most of your time.
Yeah, so I was at Winged Foot for the first time this week, just kind of as we'll talk about just the changes of everything that's required myself and travel. But I was there March 11th, and then this week was the first time I've been back on property. So a little surreal, but good to be back and now have the new dates in September. I think the dates are September 17th through the 20th. So I don't want people looking for it on television early with the dates you provided. It's all good.
Charlie, we're going to share a lot of cool information. I want you to walk us through your main responsibilities as Championship Director of the 2020 US Open. I like to tell people you handle everything outside the ropes. How would you describe it?
It's very just organizational based, logistics based. So you think any sporting event you may go to, whether it's it's an NFL game or a Richmond Flying Squirrels game, there's so much behind the scenes. Even at a minor league baseball level, you have the concessionaires that you have to work with. You've got the local community, you've got the the advertising, you've got the marketing, your tickets, admissions. There's some corporate hospitality, undoubtedly. Some entertainment going on with clients. So I kind of touch all those groups within our organization. But you think about, we've got this venue that isn't a stadium. We have to, in essence, build a site to get ready for our US Open. So we're unique from, say, maybe the Masters, another major championship, which is at Augusta National Golf Club every single year. And they've been able to put in a lot of permanent infrastructure. For us, it really takes 2-3 years, sometimes more in advance of working with the host site, working with the local government, when you think about the planning and permitting that it takes to put in water lines. So you've got to work with the water authority, for plumbing to get out to concessions or kitchens that are intense. These aren't permanent kitchens that we even have to make all the food, whether it's concessions or from a catering perspective. But then how do we get people to the event? Some of these golf courses that we go to are so historic and iconic, but they're in neighborhoods that have grown up over the last 75, some of them 100 years. So you cannot just bring in the 10 to 15,000 cars, which we historically park for a US Open, onto the immediate property. We don't have the infrastructure set to be there every year. So we have a different philosophy in the logistics of parking people at offsite locations and then shuttling them into the property. But then you kind of have the security aspects, the public safety aspects. So it's just so many different things that I touch behind the scenes of an event. But it's kind of an event management role. as mine in particular as director of our U.S. Open.
So you've been working on this event for over 2 years, but I want to take us back, if we can, to March 11th, because at the time the U.S. Open was about 3 months away, which is crunch time for you. We were having dinner in Brooklyn, New York, getting ready for VCU
That's right.
Atlantic 10 men's basketball tournament. And we were all at dinner that night, and everyone's phone started kind of going off, and we heard the NBA was suspended, and a player had tested positive, and Tom Hanks had COVID. And from that moment on, how did you and your team at the USGA begin to wrap your collective head around what was happening and how you were going to respond?
That is a lot of just kind of seeing what these organizations were doing. We weren't the first to announce anything, but we were at a critical kind of function for us, as you mentioned. About 3 months out of the U.S. Open, I talk about all the facilities and things that we need to put into place to be ready for a June U.S. Open. It takes about 3 months to build and construct this site, that we call the U.S. Open. So we were right at that critical timeline of needing to start. I mean, that following week, we were going to start building a lot of our corporate hospitality facilities, some of the tents, the infrastructure. And we truly just hit the pause button, I think, which was the smartest thing at the time. But we very quickly had to think, if we don't start building, we won't have the same size scope of the U.S. Open. But you could very quickly see through talking through with other organizations, through, whether it was NCAA or NBA, that were having to make these decisions live. Those were all, again, permanent facility decisions where they had. I mean, was it the Big East, which was also happening at Madison Square Garden? They, I believe, they played the first half and stopped, if I recall, going back, and canceled the rest of the tournament, where we have to build it first. So we, at the time, just hit the pause button and really internally tried to think about, okay, what is a June U.S. Open going to look like? It's going to be different. You very quickly had to make some decisions, though, because we, in essence, did not want to start constructing things that otherwise would be built for naught. And certainly losing money from that perspective wouldn't have been a positive thing for us.
Let's fast forward to Monday, April 6th. That's when the USGA announced that it was rescheduling the U.S. Open for September 17th through 20th at Winged Foot. But just 24 hours prior to the announcement, there was actually a different plan, which I think has come out. Can you kind of share that story?
Yeah, I mean, it's a wild time. I mean, so much is in effect here, and all the sports are kind of up against it. But, at the time, Fox Sports, our broadcast partner, June U.S. Open, we've got the 40-plus hours of coverage, dialed in contractually every year. But when you start to talk about a move to September, then they're fighting, their other clients that they have, the NFL, Major League Baseball, NASCAR. So very quickly starting to look at, how do we fit within the broadcast schedule, but then also how do we fit within the PGA Tour schedule? There's events that are going on that time of year. So not only, are the up and coming, April, May PGA Tour events, June PGA Tour events, having to consider postponements to further dates, but then how would that impact those other dates and the travel with players? And it wasn't just, it's an LPGA tours going on as well. So you're all fighting for kind of what that, television schedule, but also being cognizant of the other events, and not just because you're a major championship saying you're going to pick a week. But you're right. I mean, up until fast forward 3 weeks, we kind of made the decision to postpone to September. But the date that we settled on in September wasn't available. And if it wasn't available, that was really the last week that we could have held it at Winged Foot. And that's been our goal all along with our partnership with the host club, with the community. We wanted to have this U.S. Open nowhere but Winged Foot Golf Club. But the challenges with the PGA Tour schedule, with the broadcast schedule, and then really not having dates available to us, we were looking at potentially, a West Coast U.S. Open in December, which can you imagine what that would have been like? But fortunately, what ended up happening, the British Open, the Open Championship, like Wimbledon as well over there in the UK, announced that they were going to cancel for the year. And by canceling for the year, the date that they were going to postpone for in September became available. And we were fortunate enough to, in a 24-hour period where we're thinking we don't have a date to have it at Winged Foot, kind of gifted this stars aligned. And we're certainly happy for Winged Foot, the host club. Happy for us. That was our intent the whole time, obviously, is to do everything we could to have this championship at Winged Foot Golf Club.
And now you and the USGA are planning a world-class sporting event during a global pandemic. How do you start rewriting the playbook?
Yeah, rewriting the playbook is, I guess that's the right term. There certainly isn't a playbook for this. And it's a playbook that we feel pretty good about right now, but we hope we never have to reference again. I think we'd all agree. We'd love to see sports kind of go back to a little bit more normalcy. But it was very a lot of internal conversations. But one of the most refreshing things, I think, with all of this has just been kind of the information sharing, not only within golf, so the PGA Tour events, or Jay Monahan, who's the commissioner of PGA Tour, but also, Augusta National, the PGA of America. So their CEO, Seth Wallenteam, and our teams, just really information sharing, where normally, we want our world-class event to be our world-class event and do it this way. And you kind of a little bit more careful about, the IP that you might be sharing. But here it was, everyone's in it together. We're trying to make this the best possible situation for our players. But at the underlying thing is it has to be safe, and we have to make sure whoever's on site, whether it's players or if there becomes a situation where we can have fans back in sports, that's paramount. And you think about the communities that are affected. Westchester County, New Rochelle was a hotspot early on. That's just right next to Winged Foot Golf Club. So we wanted to make sure that we communicated with the local governments, making sure that we were very much come to us, we won't come to you, in a sense of when you're ready to talk about the U.S. Open and the planning. But
how much collaboration was there? We know you were sharing information within the global golf community. What about the rest of the global sports community and some of the other professional sports leagues here in the U.S.?
Again, it's so refreshing. I mean, I've been on some calls with some of my counterparts, if you will, with the NFL. Their schedule worked out. They didn't have as much impact, right? They had the Super Bowl, and kind of this came in their off season. They were able to pull off a virtual draft. But I was on a call with them right after the virtual draft and kind of just talking through the challenges of that. But people were talking about, the temperature screening technology when you talk about fans and throughput of what might need to be available, the testing protocols for their athletes. How, if they had something that was approved by maybe the local government or the state government, because the state governments are kind of running the ships here, they would share with us, because we're in New York, obviously with Westchester County, you have the U.S. Tennis Open, which finishes their Sunday, is the Sunday before our week of our championship. So it's going to be a neat experience to have it on television, where New York will be the center of it. But whether it was tennis, NASCAR, they were one of the first sports back. So, hearing what they were doing and the protocols and approvals that they were having to put in place to get those approvals from the state, they were very kind in sharing some of that with us. So it was very much across the sports landscape. Again, like I said, it was refreshing and made a lot of new friends in this and other industries and contacts that, we're in it together and trying to make a safe environment for everybody.
If you're just joining us, we're talking to CSL alum Charlie Howe. He's the Championship Director for the 2020 U.S. Open. And I can tell there's a lot of CSL alum that are joining us in addition to VCU alum around the country. So it's so great that all of you are joining us here today. I'm sure some of these golf fans are probably taking a peek at the Memorial, which is going on right now, especially since Tiger's on the course. The Memorial was supposed to have fans. This was supposed to be the first PGA Tour event with fans. Jay Monahan, who you referenced, the commissioner of the PGA, decided against that. It wasn't a government decision from the governor of Ohio. It was from the PGA Tour. I know that the USGA has not made an announcement yet on whether you're going to have fans or not at Winged Foot. What factors are you guys considering, Charlie?
From the beginning, obviously from having to move it from June to September, seeing other sporting events, in constant touch with the PGA Tour, if not a daily basis, on how things are going with their players. We did see the Memorial, make the announcement. They sought out approval to have around 8,000 fans for this week, several weeks ago, and received that approval from the governor of Ohio. As you mentioned, about a week ago or a little over a week ago, they went back on that, just given the the environment that's changing, right? We're seeing a lot more states that are becoming impacted or having more cases where, so I think the smart decision was made and they even made an announcement that the PGA Tour just this week that, they won't have fans at any of their events through the Tour Championship, through the FedEx Cup, which kind of goes right up to us. We were going to look at the Memorial this week very closely if they had fans and benchmark and be in touch with them to see how things went. We have still organizationally have yet to make that decision on fans or no fans, but I would envision, given the PGA Tour's announcement and us talking with them, that in the coming week we'll make a decision one way or the other, so that for my team, we have all these different plans in place. We can at least pick one and go forward and put on the best championship that we can for our players and have a player's name inscribed on the trophy.
In light of everything that you're dealing with, you were thrown a very unexpected curveball a week and a half ago. So the U.S. Open was supposed to be broadcast by Fox Sports, which had the broadcast contract. It was a 12-year deal. They were 5 years in. But in a stunning move, they asked to get out of that 12-year broadcast agreement 7 years early. So NBC is going to take it over. They'll be broadcasting the event in September. Just for some context, folks, live sporting events are the most valuable content in broadcast TV. In 2019, of the top 100 most watched TV shows, 93 were sporting events. So live sports move the needle more than anything else in television. Charlie, was the USGA surprised Fox wanted out of the deal?
The conversations were obviously with our CEO and our chief commercial officer. It was very much a surprise to a lot of us internally. I think, and having friends that I work with at Fox was a surprise. But as the kind of dust has settled on it, when you think of, they really had the USGA was their foot in the door with golf, and I think they wanted some more golf, or thought maybe they'd have some other platforms by now. But look, those decisions, I can't speak for them. I think they're ecstatic and have some great relationships with the people that I worked with for those 5 years, and for what I believe truly that advanced kind of the broadcast of golf, just through some of the technologies that they brought in to where maybe some of the other networks had been more traditional, and it kind of encouraged those other networks to bring in some of the technologies. Not that Fox invented some of them, but we're really, took some maybe more chances of highlighting different ways to broadcast a major championship. So a lot was learned across the broadcast, but a complete surprise, to myself personally. But, what we've learned in this pandemic is things change on a daily basis and hourly basis. So our teams, immediately were getting on the call with NBC and some familiar faces. So for me, I worked with NBC through 2014. You could see how happy they were to have the USGA back in their portfolio of golf. They own the Golf Channel. So for us and for our fans, you think about how often now the USGA or US Open has the opportunity to get mentioned on another NBC telecast. Dan Hicks, who will be really announcing kind of the US Open for NBC, is a member at Winged Foot. So he's at Winged Foot tomorrow. And just was on the phone with one of our photographers. We're going to do a story on the kind of the back to NBC, USGA. So we're going to grab a photo of him tomorrow at the club. But we're thrilled to be back with NBC. But it certainly was a curveball. And I think what happened, and I think it's been, noted in the news, that the September move and the conflict that Fox was having with their other entities and sports properties made it very difficult for them to kind of fulfill probably the hours that we contractually were owed, for coverage. So I think it was, from what I read and have heard, it was shopped maybe from Fox to NBC for maybe just this year alone. And then that evolved into further conversations. So again, Fox was fantastic, advanced the game, I think, in television broadcasts for us and for other networks. But we're thrilled to be back with NBC, who, Golf Channel and the different properties that they have and different teams, the familiarity that they have on a week in, week out basis.
Charlie, considering your leadership role within the United States Golf Association, how do you think the COVID crisis has affected the way you make decisions, both small and large?
I think, it's really brought us more together, you would think. Even though we're virtual, every department, kind of how we navigate through a crisis or through a decision making, making sure that we have all voices, because every decision, is affecting something, and it might be a trickle down effect. So, maybe in the past, and I can't use an example off the top of my head, but where a decision's made where it immediately impacts another department, and now this has really shown us that we really just kind of have to cross those T's, dot the I's, make sure everyone's in place. And I think just internally, our communication has improved from organizationally, structurally, with the timeline of making a decision or announcement. So again, in this next week, when I imagine we'll make a fan or no fans decision, if that's released to the media at 11, that hour before, internally, we're making sure that our key stakeholders, have a heads up about this decision, and it's not, they're not surprised either. So it's really streamlined our communication. And when maybe you think it would make it more, discombobulated.
Well, let me ask you this. What advice then do you have for our VCU alums and our Center for Sport Leadership alums that are watching right now about, directors or managers and just facing decisions that could be impacting safety of employees or customers or colleagues?
Yeah, I think kind of really taking a step back and realizing that the importance of this is the health and safety of the citizens of this country or your state or community. So you have to be very cognizant of, if you are holding a special event, obviously that may need police or an EMS or even fire, like look what we'll have in support. But you want to be very cautious of what that optically would look like when you are inviting, doctors and nurses to help out at a sporting event or any other event that you have. And you're taking them away from where, quite frankly, and don't feel shy in saying it, their duties are in the hospitals right now and making sure that people get through this pandemic the best they can. And we, as a leader in sports management, don't need to be pulling people out of the communities. It's just not. That's not what's important right now. Sports is great. It's a good release, an escape for people. Golf is fortunate to be one of those sports that you can play through this and practice, physical distancing. But at the forefront is, health and safety. So just communicating with your teams just to kind of see the bigger picture here has been paramount for me.
It's interesting you mentioned golf. Obviously, being an outside sport, it is benefiting some. It's probably one of the few sports that has seen some benefit. I know that the National Golf Foundation said that rounds were up about 6% for May. We don't have the numbers for June yet, but whether statistically or anecdotally, do you see some benefit for growing the game of golf in terms of just it's on TV, it's one of the few sports on TV, and it seems like people are out playing and maybe re-engaging a sport they haven't played in a while?
Absolutely. It is definitely an opportunity. You'd have to look at it that way for us to put our product, again, holistically as golf as an industry out on television, like NASCAR has done or UFC. There's a platform where people are looking and kind of starving for live sports, starving for an escape from, seeing the news and what good or bad and the politics are going on. I think sports has been a release, but for golf to be that, in front of more eyes, we hope we can show them a little bit about our game that we want to keep them, past the pandemic when other sports are back on TV and you're competing for their time at home on television. So, but then playing the sport, you're absolutely right. I mean, I know for myself, I like to try to stay in shape and played soccer at Virginia Tech and played for the Richmond Kickers there at home. And running got old pretty quickly, and you were just looking for anything that you could do outside. So I picked up like bicycling even during this pandemic to try to change it up, but been fortunate to have golf too. Being able to have a sport that you can be outside, practice social distancing. There was, of course, organizationally for us and through across, with the National Golf Foundation and with all the different properties, putting forth some guidelines that were approved by the CDC, WHO, to allow that to happen. It wasn't just, golf's outside. We were very cautious, back to my point of what's most important right now, which is health and safety of those people and giving them a structure and giving them access to the game that, they otherwise maybe wouldn't have done during the month of May, but certainly looked at it as an opportunity to get outside and do something different. And so I will be interested in be watching that closely I know another alum of ours, Glenn Gray, works directly with the National Golf Foundation. So we'll be looking for that data of new people to the game, and hopefully, they stay around and realize how great this game is, going forward.
If any of our alum watching on the webinar or on Facebook Live want to shoot a question, you can put it in the chat, or you can obviously post it on Facebook Live. Charlie, I want to ask you about your CSL experience. And maybe when you think back to when you were a graduate student here at VCU, what sticks out?
Yeah, so this is back in 2007 at VCU. I was playing with the kickers at the time, so I think the flexibility of being able to train in the morning and then kind of with the class schedule really taking up the rest of the day and the different groups and offsite meetings that you would kind of be scheduled for. But what an experience! I mean, I think it was for me. Just to see the on-hands environment that was provided. I mean, certainly there's a structure to it. You have textbooks, there's readings, obviously in a normal, educational environment, but the opportunities with the athletic department, with just whether it was the flying squirrels or, think about sports backers that students were able to be involved with, or the kickers, I was in a playing role, so not as much, kind of probably not being able to take advantage of as much opportunity from, a graduate assistantship, but, just being around and in an environment where people who just love sports and love the meaning of what it is for the communities they're in and the impact that it can make on young people's lives. I think the messaging and just, again, I credit you, Greg, and Carrie, and the leadership, and, Doc Sander at the time, Nathan Thomasini, some just great individuals, great mentors for me that kind of made sure, because I went into the program going, I'm going to work in soccer and that's what I'm going to do. And you very quickly, among others, were, there's X number of jobs in soccer, and then there's X, Y, Z, if you look at the sports industry landscape. So I still think there's some maturity that I had taken place during the program, just realizing, how competitive the industry is, not only within your own CSL, but all the sports management programs throughout the country. But I'm so confident when I talk to prospective students about the program, seeing, my fellow alumni on our board, or just the 800 or so alumni that we have, the program's 20 years old now, the impact it's made, but then the jobs people are starting to get, and, whether it's myself or others that have been, early on have had success, and now being able to use them as examples to future students to kind of show them and help them visualize their career path. And I think one thing that it existed then, and is also, even more prevalent now, is just the communication of our alumni with our current students. I appreciated it as a student, but now as an alumni, just kind of giving back and helping, mentor some of these students and getting into whatever sport that they want to. But, critically, I think we did this early on, is, this graduating class, didn't have a normal, end of their year, and didn't have normal graduation, didn't have, European model for sport trip. But so I think our alumni really stepped up in making sure that whether it was finding opportunities for these current graduates, or, kind of coaching them through, just some of the life decisions that are having to be made during this pandemic, and to, be patient, but we're here to help.
Yeah, I'm obviously, the sport industry, like so many others across our country, have been drastically affected by this. What is something proactively you think they can do? We know there's not a lot of jobs out there right now, but what are some things for our most recent graduates, younger graduates, that maybe they could do to maybe push forward and keep that dream alive?
I think it's the networking, right? It's the internal networking amongst your students, amongst you, the staff, your alumni within, but then not being afraid to, if there's a company or someone you want to work with, not being afraid to get on LinkedIn. Making sure your LinkedIn profile is, up to snuff, but reaching out and seeing if people are willing to have a conversation with you. Understanding there may not be a position or a role, but I think letting these companies know that, or just making the connection, and then that way, hopefully they have your resume, or have you, front of mind when things do start to open up again and opportunities become available.
We got a couple questions coming in. So
Great.
let me ask this one first from Sky, who is definitely a golf fan and volunteers at the Tour Championship in Atlanta, which sadly they won't be doing, but says, I know many of the golf tournaments have a very large charitable component. Actually, golf donates more money to nonprofit causes than any other sport. I know because Glenn Gray has told me that many
Yeah.
times, another one of our alums. Wondering, with no fans and decreased revenue, how could that affect the charitable giving to nonprofit organizations that are normally helped by pro golf events?
Yeah, and the PGA Tour is phenomenal on this on a week in, week out basis. From the USGA being a not-for-profit organization ourselves, and the revenue that we make from the US Open. I mean, for being a not-for-profit, the money that we're bringing in from the US Open and other events goes back into the game, whether it's LPGA or girls golf, whether it's programs like the First Tee. So it's definitely having an impact. I think for us, it's the relationships and understanding that, what we need to get through this pandemic together. We'll be looking forward to the future and kind of getting back things and making sure that, I think even the USGA, we made a commitment of, a $5 million towards our regional golf association. So you think about the Allied Golf Association, what we call them, but the Virginia State Golf Association is an example of that. We have several of those throughout the country that we committed money to because we knew that, some of the events that they were running weren't able to be conducted. So, as a governing body and as the, kind of one of the leaders in golf, and like I said, the PGA Tour is doing the same for their events, having those tough conversations, but also making sure that, they feel still welcome in the community. And next year, you just try to make it better and better. But it's, in essence, just trying to, right now, just focus on health and safety and being able to have an event, period. And, if allowed by local governments or state governments.
Thanks so much for that question, Sky.
Yeah, great question.
He leads the alumni chapter down in Atlanta. So thank you so much for doing that, Sky. Another question. Charlie, they want to know, after the U.S. Open, do you move on to working another Open? What's next for you?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. So my role has evolved. I mean, for 12 years, I moved about every 2 years. I started off, as mentioned at the top of the Q&A, as an intern in San Diego at Torrey Pines. Tiger beat Rocco, one of the most amazing sporting events I've ever been to in my life. Then I moved to Bethpage State Park on Long Island, down to D.C. for Congressional's U.S. Open, up to Philadelphia for Marion Golf Club in 2013, moved to Oakmont in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, to Shinnecock Hills, and now I'm working out of our headquarters. And my role has now evolved where I do a lot of work in the advanced planning of our future championships. So we've got sites announced through 2027. Obviously this year at Winged Foot, but next year we're back at Torrey Pines, so kind of full circle for me. 2022 we're at Brookline, the country club in Boston. 2023 we're at LA Country Club, 24 Piners, back to Oakmont in 25, and Shinnecock in 26, and Pebble Beach in 27. So I'm not having to move anymore. I did live that potted plant lifestyle. Never was able to put down some roots, but now being able to kind of call a place home and start to manage teams that do the moving, making sure that they're working with the club, with the community. So that's kind of what's next to me, is just kind of still, instead of focusing on maybe just one championship going forward, is on several going forward, and making sure that we've got teams into place, there in the community.
Another question. What's your favorite course and memory from being part of so many amazing USGA events?
It's hard not to think of the first one. I mean, it's arguably one of the most historic U.S. Opens ever, and you don't get to say that for many recent or more modern championships. Tiger Masters last year certainly being one of them for what that meant. But yeah, I mean, I had never been, and people won't know this on the call, maybe a few, but I had never been to a golf event, period. I didn't play 18 holes of golf till I was a sophomore in college, just with some soccer friends. So, I mean, and I hadn't been to the member guest to the local country club. So my first golf experience was the U.S. Open and Tiger Rocco full 18-hole playoff. So, I mean, it's absolutely blew my mind. And I can wholeheartedly say is the reason where my passion for golf was just cemented. No questions asked. This sport is incredible. just seeing the environment, what it is to attend as fans, and at iconic courses. It's hard to pick a favorite. I have so many. I mean, you look at Oakmont Country Club and the history there. We'll have our 10th U.S. Open there in 2025. So you walk some of these properties and just the people who have won. Marion Golf Club, thinking about the 1950 U.S. Open and Ben Hogan winning after his car accident, and the plaque in the middle of 18th fairway as you're having the opportunity, and I'm blessed and fortunate to be able to do it at times. It's not often for viewers. I don't play a lot of golf. That's the big myth of you work in the golf industry, you must play all the time. No, I'm busiest during the nicest time of year to play golf. But the few chances that I do get to play, I've been fortunate to be able to play at some of these iconic places. And that's what's great about our championship too, is taking taking our championship and showcasing the unbelievable golf that we have in this country, and the history that we have, and helping to tell that story for the current year, because that will be history at some point, no question.
If you've enjoyed our conversation with Charlie Howe, VCU alum and Championship Director for the 2020 U.S. Open, give us a like or a thumbs up there on Facebook Live if you're watching there, or let us know obviously through the Zoom chat. It's really been a fun conversation. Charlie, I'll let you kind of have the last word if you want to share any final thoughts with all our VCU alumni watching today.
Yeah, I mean, first and foremost, I hope everyone is doing well, their family, friends. It's been a trying and challenging experience, whether it's, health, if you know someone that may have been affected in a negative way through this, and just kind of keep being smart. I think we're all in this together. We all want to see less cases wherever we are, and hopefully you can tune in September. Whether we have fans or not, we're going to put on a fantastic championship. And like I said, we're going to have, our 120th U.S. Open championship. So that history, and we'll be able to put a name on the trophy, and can't wait to see who's going to elevate their game. And Wingfoot, the history we have there, it's a very difficult test. So, I mean, they're all tough, the U.S. Opens. But Wingfoot is certainly up there with the rough that they have. And if you want to get an idea, you can go back on YouTube and peruse the 2006 U.S. Open with Phil Mickelson having a lead going into the final hole, and Jeff Ogilvy ended up winning it. But you can see kind of the stress that these guys go through for a U.S. Open, and that's what we look to test. It's different than a lot of other golf tournaments, and the players have said that they love winning that because of the mental test, the physical test that it takes to win. So we're excited for this year. It's going to be different. We know we've had to reimagine it, but we can't wait for it to be showcased on television, and kind of have the opportunity to showcase New York and those frontline responders that have helped us get through this in Westchester County, and showcase their state, showcase their county, and all the efforts that have gone on to be able to make this happen. So we look forward to doing that, and we'll still have conversations to have with the state government and getting that ultimate sign off. But we're excited. I'm excited. Look forward to getting back to Richmond after the U.S. Open, seeing some family for the first time in a while. That's what I look forward to right now, is just kind of the relationships that I have with my fellow VCU alumni, whether it's our VCU CSL program, but throughout the country. This all started the night before VCU was supposed to tip off at the Barclays, and having dinner with Greg Burton, and the windfall of sports changing, certainly in the near future. But it's been a pleasure. I really appreciate Greg, the opportunity, Amy, Gray, and others that were responsible for inviting me on, giving me the opportunity to speak to everyone, share a little bit about kind of behind the scenes, this peek under the tent, so to speak, of the U.S. Open.
We appreciate you sharing your time and all your stories. We do want to thank Amy and Parks from VCU Alumni for really putting this together and allowing the VCU Center for Sport Leadership a chance to showcase our program and one of our most established and accomplished alums. Of course, we want to thank all of the VCU alums, specifically those CSL alums who logged on today on this webinar, and everybody that's watching on Facebook Live. It's so great to see so many Rams engaged in one place, and we hope you'll continue to engage and watch future VCU alum Q&As. And thanks again to Charlie Howe for doing this. We appreciate it, Charlie. Again, I'm Greg Burton with the VCU Center for Sport Leadership. Hope you enjoyed it today. Everyone have a great weekend.
Thank you.